Are you ready to untangle from your past, recover from heartbreak, and revive your life? This is Soul CPR with your host, Ann Papayoti. We've all had soul-crushing experiences and lost ourselves in our pain, but there is a way out. On this podcast, Amazon best-selling author, award-winning life coach, and advice columnist Ann Papayoti helps us navigate the path from heartbreak to healing. So now, please welcome the host of Soul CPR, Ann Papayoti.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in today. I'm curious, what is your relationship with trust? Is it something that's been easy or difficult, tentative, or broken even? How would you label or describe it, and why? And have you ever experienced betrayal? If so, how has that impacted your ability or willingness to trust in general? While you think about your personal relationship with trust and whether a betrayal experience may have any influence on it, I'd like to introduce you to my special guest today. Dr. Yasemin Gokalp is an expert in leadership development and inclusive culture building. With a PhD in performance psychology, a master's in organizational and industrial psychology, and a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. She blends performance psychology with process improvement. She has 15 years of HR experience, 8 years of professional coaching expertise, and is an ICF mentor coach. Dr. Yasemin, as she's known to all who know and love her, is also launching an ICF accredited life coaching school to train coaches who are experts in leadership performance enhancement across high stakes fields. And when I say high stakes fields, she is currently working with the United States Navy to enhance leadership capabilities, as well as with the Internal Revenue Service to foster organizational inclusivity. So, as you can hear, she's highly educated and accomplished, but I also happen to know her as a pretty phenomenal human being. I am proud and blessed to call her my friend. Dr. Yasemin, or Yasmin, I'm probably just going to call you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you. Hearing
Yes.
it from your mouth. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, of course, I am so delighted that you are here today. This is a hot topic that we're going to talk about in my world with my clients, with my support groups, and we're going to get to that shortly. But first, I really want everyone to hear how we know one another. So when you think back to 2015, it's already been 10 years, right?
I
We
know.
at our professional coach certification training school, right? And actually, Tracy McDonald was with us as well, who's been on the show with us. She's my co-author of The Gift of Shift. And actually, the three of us just sort of gravitated to one another, and we've all collaborated in different ways since. But what's important about that, I believe, is that I often talk to my clients about who they hang out with and about finding people who inspire and help elevate them, and just based on shared values and having the ability then to communicate and share ideas and it's just by sharing time, right? I think that's something the three of us all did and still do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have a lot of fun when we are together, right? And
Let's
we're very like-minded since day one. I don't know how universe put us together, but did a great job. I'm grateful.
I am very grateful too. And uh, something else that I would say that grabbed my attention about you and pulled me in was not just your commitment to excellence that really stood out when we were going through this intensive training, which was close to a year long for all of us. I mean, we chose a really intensive coach training program. And I'm so glad that we did, because I think it made us the professionals that we are today in that field. But it was also, I learned that you were a hardworking single boy mom, which I'd also been at one time in my life. And I also learned that you'd been an Olympic athlete. Tell us a little bit about that.
Not Olympic level, but I ran in 2014 European Championship. It was a track and field, event, and all my life I was in athletics, in track and field, in basketball. You said dedication for performance excellence. I think that was something that was built from the my secondary school years, elementary school years. It started with sports, and I'm grateful that I had that experience, because you said it well, who you hang out with shapes your life. And I was around with high performer athletes when I was growing up. And then you powerful ladies later in life, right? So what a blessing. Choices makes a great difference. How you live your life, the quality of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another
Mhm.
thing that I found we had in common is your country of origin is Turkey, and my
Yes.
husband's country of origin is Greece, yet his family on his father's side were Greeks from Turkey. So we found some commonalities there, and I finally got to visit your beautiful homeland, and I fell in love with it. And anyway, we've had more and more to share in common throughout the years, and I have just loved that. Anyway, we are here together today because of a LinkedIn post that you
Mm.
made that grabbed my attention. And in this post, you had conducted a leadership development session with the United States Navy, as I was talking about before, where you had a very insightful discussion on this topic, trust and betrayal. And you said something to the effect of understanding how to build trust requires a deep understanding of betrayal and the profound way it shapes us as leaders. And when the conversations turn to trust, it inevitably leads to discussions about betrayal. And that post, Yasmin, is when I reached out and asked if you would please come onto the show and talk about these concepts, because often in coaching sessions and of course in support groups for separation and divorce, these topics are quite common and hot, as I said, because as you can imagine, when people share experiences of betrayal and of course broken trust in their intimate relationships, it's there's a lot of trauma behind all of that and
Mm.
something they want to learn about. So I'm curious.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm very curious about this topic coming from your perspective and your leadership and your training. How does this subject play a crucial role in leadership development training for such high stakes groups and high performance organizations like the United States Navy?
Oh, it plays a huge role. There is no high performance in a team environment if you do not trust one another. And I think high performance environments, like in Navy, right? When I say Navy, not all Navy is war fighters. There are different levels, different groups that supports the war fighters. But I want to give an example from a warfighter perspective. I think it's easier for everyone to understand. Let's say you and I, we're in a vulnerable area and we're trying to go somewhere, right? If I touch my back to yours, and if I trust that you are watching my back and I'm watching your front, right? Then together between our peripheral vision, we have a 360 view. It's less vulnerable and we're more complete together versus you try to take care of your front and back all at the same time. You're more vulnerable. So I think, organizations like Navy, they do understand trust is extremely important to build high performance teams, right? In organizations, in corporate environments, though, people are more individualistic, have more individualistic approach to trust. Me first, then us, um, versus it's us. But the funny thing is, me, I don't usually post on social media at all. A day before, we had that trust section, I was having panic attacks because, who am I to talk about trust while I'm having a hard time trusting people, and betrayal does that to you, right? So I had this thing and I couldn't sleep that night. And the reason why I post that was oh my God, this section is over. I'm so glad that it's over. And, also it was an emotional experience because I'm not alone in this. I know, right? Whenever I say that, and this is not the first time that we were teaching that subject, so far we had different cohorts, I think 6, 7 already. Every time the subject is up, first thing that they think about is betrayal. It's like, someone says that, and you're doing this amazingly, a million things, but this one thing we need to work on. All you think of that, whatever you need to work on. It's the same thing with trust. As soon as you say trust, they're like,
Yeah.
just like me, right? So they remember their betrayal stories. So as you know, as coaches, we catch that energy. So I started asking betrayal stories first before we start digging into trust.
Yeah.
So
That makes
yeah.
sense. That makes a lot of sense because, and that's why at the top of the show, I asked people to think about their relationship with trust and if they'd ever experienced betrayal and if that had any influence at all on how they think of trust. It's interesting that you had said in that post that inevitably the discussion would go to betrayal. So much so that you started leading this topic of trust with betrayal and tapping into that. It I think we all know what betrayal is, and it is considered one of the most hurtful human emotional experiences. It is trauma. I think some people don't know that it is considered trauma, um, but it is. What would you say, from a psychologist standpoint, are some of the layers of that trauma or the layers of betrayal, if you will?
It is trauma. And after betrayal, that comes the grief, right? Um, I want to share a lot of things about this, but I want to start with this number one thing. If you lose someone, if there's a death in your family, someone you lose, someone you love that you lost, it's painful. You know that it's painful. People around you will know that it's painful, and they will do their absolute best to make sure that you return back to yourself, right?
Yeah, right.
With betrayal, it's not like that because it's shame inducing and you feel alone in the journey. So you're betrayed and then you're alone. It's like double the trauma. And people have a hard time understanding this, but I'm going to share from the experience. I feel like it is harder to recover from betrayal because of that, because you don't share it with somebody. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I think it grief is part of it, and I think it looks and sounds a lot like grief, some of the stages that people will go through.
Mhm.
The emotional impact is very different, and the way people experience the emotional impact is very different. And I think you described it beautifully. There's a very isolating element of betrayal. And the fact that so many people do minimize it, not even recognizing it as trauma, betrayal trauma is a real thing. And
It is.
that's a real thing, right? And I mean that's a term in psychology, and there's betrayal trauma recovery, and there is a path to healing. And I want people and listeners to understand that. And without that healing, then trust cannot ever really be rebuilt, and to come back, it'll be you know, irreparable forever, which is going to impact life. And we'll talk more about that later. But thank you for sharing that, because I think people need to have that validated for them, that how
Mhm.
true betrayal is, and then to compare that to the grief of death, I think is very important. Um, just even recognizing that the person who betrayed you is someone who is still around, um, somehow, and that you might have to face that whether you hold on to the hope that they may try to repair the relationship with you can create some ongoing trauma, whereas in death there is um, eventually an easier place of acceptance, right? Because of
Absolutely. And,
reality.
absolutely. And I want to add, yes, all that is going on. And on top of that, you have these feelings of, well, I am the one that he didn't want,
Hmm.
right? What is wrong with me? Comparisons and feeling that imposter syndrome. And do you think that you only have that in your personal life? You carry it around everywhere you go. Like, am I enough? Or, what is wrong with me? What did I do wrong? All
That's right.
those years that I invested my life, my heart,
Mhm.
why did I do it to myself? It's just self beating and
Mhm.
self damaging if you don't control it well, right?
Yes.
When you didn't get the help you need, you deserve,
Mhm.
right? Then that is an additional, load that you carry around all your life,
Right,
right?
and then it becomes self-betrayal, as you're describing that
Mm,
self-inflicted, punishment of that blame game, and I what was wrong with me? Why was
mm.
I not good enough? It is so punishing, and we create suffering, ongoing suffering. It is time for our first break. I know there's so much more we could say, and we are going to say a lot more on this subject. So, Yasmin, hang tight. Listeners, don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Mike Zorich, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Ann Papayotti. I'm here with my special guest and friend, Dr. Yasemin Gokalp, and we are talking about trust and betrayal. And we were just wrapping up a little bit about betrayal. I'm sure it's going to be a running theme throughout today. I do want to say that the experience of betrayal trauma will be different for everyone, and but healing is possible, peace is possible, and trust can be rebuilt. But we will talk more about that as we go on. What exactly is trust, though, Yasemin? When we talk about trust.
So I think in every environment it's a little different depending on the social environment that you're in, organizations or at home. But my favorite description came from Charles Fedman, and I didn't want to mess it up. I wrote it here. I'm going to read it to you. Trust is choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of others. In a way, my heart, this crystal, very fragile. Here, I'm giving it to you, and it's open to the actions, whatever the actions you choose to have, to your actions. Will you save it and protect it
Right.
with your life, or will you just crash it into pieces? It's up to you. I think that is trust, and it's such a vulnerable act.
Yeah. Whoa. Just I was visualizing that, handing almost this glass heart, that could be broken into pieces. So, how do you build trust between two people so much so that you're willing to hand over that vulnerable heart?
There are so many factors that goes into it, and in the trainings that we put together, we go through that in a 2 hours section. It's hard to fit it in a short period of time, but I think the most important thing is that you need to understand the boundaries of people around you, and you need to be so firm about the boundaries of yourself. You want to hold them, and they will respect those boundaries, and this is reciprocal, right? um, they will have their own boundaries, and you will respect them, and they will also keep on to their own boundaries, meaning that those boundaries are the rules of the game.
Okay.
And if there are no rules, I think that's the foundation. There is no trust, because I don't know what I'm doing with you, and if you don't have any boundaries, and if I accidentally pushed your boundary, how will I know that I did? Because I didn't know there was one.
Mm.
It builds upon that. And research shows us that trust is built in small actions. It doesn't require big action, in these little small actions. um, you being reliable over and over and over again. You make decisions with integrity. You're accountable. you're keeping your word. You're keeping my word, and you don't carry other people's word to me, right? So if you consistently practice these non-judgmentally and have the best generous assumptions about me, thinking that, whatever I do, I'm not trying to do it to betray you. You have the best interest. You believe that I have the best interest at heart for you, and you do that repeatedly. I think that's how you build trust.
Beautiful. I want to ask about within a team, but first, because we were just talking about betrayal, and the most common question that I get from clients and from support group participants who've experienced betrayal in an intimate partner relationship is, how do you rebuild trust after betrayal? Whether it's with the same person, and probably not, but just how do you ever, what I hear is, how do I ever trust again?
That's very heavy right there, right? So because we said at the beginning, you just experienced the trauma, and
Mhm.
in society it doesn't even recognize that as trauma. And here, you put a little piece of your soul on the table. Let's say it's dark chocolate, you know, and your partner puts a piece of their soul on the table, white chocolate. They merge due to the warmth of those warm feelings into each other, right? After betrayal, try clean up the white chocolate out of your dark chocolate. It's so messy,
Yeah.
right? And you're never complete. You're never the same person after a betrayal. A piece of you dies with the betrayed, and you have to rebuild it from scratch. You need to relearn how to love again, how to trust again, how to put yourself out there again. It's hell. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And, to build trust, there are three things needs to happen. First, you have to have someone in front of you that is trustworthy, right? It's makes sense. Second, the environment's supposed to be available for you to trust one another. In corporations, we see some, terrible corporate culture. It's hard to trust anyone.
Sure.
The, the third thing is the most important thing, your ability to trust someone. If lack thereof, tripod is not complete, so nothing holds up. So if you have a hard time trusting people, do not label it as there are no people around me that I can trust. Maybe it's you. I know it's me. And that's why I knew, who am I to teach about trust? Those who cannot do, teach. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
But
One thing that I do work with people when they've gone through something with, like, betrayal, and it's led to divorce or dissolution of a very important relationship in their life, is I say the first person that you have to learn to trust again is yourself. And then that
mm,
leads to discernment in trusting others. And that allows you then to do those, or allow those little, small, consistent, reliable actions you were describing before. You'll know right away uh, that they're unreliable, or that they're inconsistent in those actions, and you won't allow yourself to end up in a relationship that was not trustworthy. You won't get that far down the road. So it's building that trust within oneself that I find is paramount to being able to be in those future trustworthy mutual relationships. But having said that, how do you build trust within a team? You've got all these people coming from these different backgrounds of different relationships with trust and different experiences with betrayal, because I can tell you if I took a poll of people that I've met, if we asked them to raise their hands, how many of you have experienced betrayal? I don't know that anyone would not raise their hand. And I'm not limiting this to intimate partners. I would say
Mhm.
people have been betrayed by family, by close friendships, by coworkers. It's not limited to intimate partners by any means. So, what about in the workplace or within a team?
So, in a way, what you're asking is how do you turn a group of people
Mhm.
into high performance teams?
Okay.
Because the trust factor is the factor that glues everyone together to make them team, right?
Mhm.
So that's the corporate culture. Everything, that the tripod that I talk about, a few minutes ago. If the environment is right, if just let's look at a family unit, right? If the environment is right, if the family members, if there are uh, good values that are practiced, not professed but practiced, right? And there are love, cherish between the members of the family. If if it's a warm, nice environment for a family to be, everyone in the family, the first reaction is trust and cooperation. That's how you create trust and cooperation. So it
Mhm.
starts with the corporate values, leadership values. Who am I as a leader? And then, well, what am I reflecting to my team? Because they
Mhm.
look up to you, right?
Yeah. Right.
Leaders set the tone in any team. So it starts with the leader and then creating the right culture. So the thing is, in team environments, no matter what, if you place a group of individuals into one group, let's say project group, right?
Mhm.
A culture will merge, but it may not be the one that you want. So it has to be controlled in a way that it is a trusting, warm, value based culture that leaders actually understand, or dictate that, or practice that every day with their decisions and all. And the
Yeah.
natural reaction is trust and cooperation.
I love that. Cultures emerge from groups regardless. So pay attention to how you
Mhm.
lead yourself. And then, however, in a group where there is a designated leader, whether it's the parent or in a family or whatever it may be, or it's the CEO at work or whatever it may be, the designated leader on a project team, as you say, paying attention to that because the culture is going to emerge. It's just what kind of culture will it
Yes.
be?
And
All
it
right.
may not be what you want,
It
right?
may not be what you want. Exactly. It is time for our second break. Don't go far.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to talk about how this molds us, these type of experiences with trust and betrayal. So don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Thank you for tuning in today. I have Dr. Yasemin here with me today, and we were talking about trust and betrayal. So, Yasemin, how do our experiences with trust and betrayal shape our sense of self and end up impacting our relationships at work and home?
Our brain, even from this today experience, at least for me, because this is one of the first podcasts that I'm doing, will not be the same tomorrow. Our brain changes with experience all the time. We know that even a day learning, your brain changes. We can see it in the brain scans. An experience like betrayal changes the brain as well in a bad way, right? And then it creates these pathways. A little baby, if a little baby touches on the stove, hot stove, the first reaction is grab the hand back, right? And would that baby touch that stove again? No, even the baby knows, right? So we have this strategy, or we have these pathways in our head. If it is unconscious, it creates unconscious behavioral patterns in our brain. So if this happens, I will do this type of thing, right? If I have a hard time trusting others because of the pathways, because of the experience I had, I don't want to burn like that again. I'm having a hard time trusting people. Let's say that if I'm leading a team, possible outcomes that we see is micromanaging, not
Okay.
being able to delegate, right? Not being able to say no to the projects because they feel like no one else can do it. They just have to trust themselves, over trusting themselves, right? Schedules are packed. They don't have time for themselves anymore. That leads to burnout. So a little experience with betrayal, here I am dealing with leadership issues like micromanaging, very common, having a hard time trusting team members, therefore burnout, they're experiencing burnout. And, they have less generous assumptions about people around them. So they expect bad rather than trying to hear the good in any project or any news. In return, people start leaving the positions surrounding this person. So it impacts leadership behaviors dramatically. And usually that's the root cause.
So I would assume that's the same in personal life. So let's say for a parent, maybe they become overprotective of their child, or they don't allow their spouse or their children to do certain chores. They don't trust that something will be done to a certain standard, or so. I'm translating it into something at home, but then that can lead to burnout too. But yeah, so it's changed our brain in the subconscious or the unconscious, as we say, and created these behaviors that are impacting our overall well-being. That's what I'm hearing. And the
Absolutely.
relationships, our external relationships. Okay.
Absolutely. because your brain is your brain. You carry your brain and those behavioral patterns from one
Mhm.
relationship to another.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
unless you resolve those issues in you, both of the world will be affected, your work life and your personal life as well.
Right. Right. So, all right. So it starts shaping how we show up in all these other different areas that we may not have associated all came from betrayal or
Hmm.
trust and our inability to trust. So it's very important that we heal this source wound, this origin wound, so that we can, because what does it cost us to not be able to trust? What does it cost us?
Well, not being able to reach to your potential
Mm,
as a work performance or life performance, life fulfillment.
right.
We're wired for connection. Our
Yeah.
survival depends on it.
Yeah.
I hear that one of the leading causes of death in the United States is loneliness.
Right.
Well, lack of trust, not being able to trust leads to lack of connection with people, because no trust, no connection. It's the prerequisite for any social relationship.
Sure. So, um, so when I first asked you the definition of trust, you used the word choice. It was a choice. So, what about when people get stuck in maybe this seemingly choice to not trust? Let's say they get stuck in some kind of negativity about distrust. What would you say about that? Is there choice involved, even though there's a subconscious level?
Well, maybe not at first, right? When you find out that you're betrayed, not that day is the first day, leading to your healing journey. Let your emotions experience your emotions fully before you move on. But if it is excessive, it's been a year and you're still so angry, just like day one, about what's happening, and your life hasn't changed yet, because you're supposed to, it's supposed to change you. These things happen so that you reborn from this as a different version of yourself and start living again, right?
Mhm.
All these anxiety, all these bad feelings, emotions, certain hormones leads to these emotions. Cortisol is, one of the leading hormone for negative emotions. At some point, nobody's dripping cortisol to your ear. You self-generate that. It becomes a choice. So you're choosing to induce cortisol hormone by your thoughts, which leads to your emotions, which leads to your behaviors.
Yeah.
So after a while, it's a choice to live like that.
Yeah. So choosing to heal is important. And as we said before, betrayal trauma, while it's real, there's also a pathway to healing. And that acceptance stage that we know happens with grief also can happen with betrayal trauma. And there's a word that is used, that integration comes, and that's that reintegrating. And you're talking about connection, how important it is. And it's reintegrating into relationships. And I think then that choice to trust, um, and those little, I loved your definition, and it's that consistency and those small actions, the reliability being proven over and over. And then if you can trust yourself to discern if that is happening or not, then you walk away from a relationship. Um, Loving that. So tell me a little bit about the training curriculum that you've developed, because I hear, and I've seen that you're using it at the government level, at the military level, and at the corporate level. So tell me a little bit about the components of it.
So this curriculum started as a high performance teams leadership curriculum, but then we adapted it. My business partner, Levi Searles, who's a retired Navy, him and I, we made it created this thing that is includes a lot of stories, especially those who has extremely technical minds, engineers, scientists, finance professionals. Um, they learn social behavioral learning. Their social behavioral learning is a little different than those social butterflies.
Yeah.
So we fit this curriculum to their environment, and between Levi and I, we share a lot of stories. And the whole training, we have 3 levels of 40 hours training and many versions of it. The whole experience is when learners leave the week-long training, they feel like they had a week-long conversation with their friends and family
Wow.
about some serious stuff. So
Amazing.
that's the feeling that we wanted them to have at the end of this experience, and we wanted to make it memorable,
Yeah.
moving. you know um, so it's a self-awareness journey for leaders in 101, 201, and 301 level, top level.
Amazing. What kind of feedback are you getting?
Awesome feedback. Like we have just, I'm going to quote one person, several of them actually. They said, we've been in Navy for 20 years. By far, hands down, this is the best experience we had. um, Regular leadership teachings, it's like trying to put a square tub in a round hole.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't reach to them. We designed this just for this particular group, very 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 STEM oriented technical minds, so it just lands very beautifully with them.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. It is time for our third and final break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you about a key takeaway for our audience today and how they can connect with you. So don't go far. We'll be right back with more Soul CPR.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Mike Zorich, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Well, we have reached the closing segment of our show today, Yasemin. And again, thank you for joining me. Based on everything that we've talked about when it comes to trust and betrayal, if you had one key takeaway for our audience, what would it be?
I think moving forward is, that part is very important, right? If you experience something like this, I know that it is shame inducing, and shame cannot survive if you share it with the right people, the people who loves you, cares for you no matter what, right? And also other things like we need to change your brain. You need to change your brain, um, reverse it in a way that, and we know that sleeping well, 8 hours asleep a day helps with that. Apparently that rebuilding happens during sleep. So sleep hygiene is extremely important. Eat well, take good care of yourself, and get help. Coaching is amazing, right? You're not mentally ill. You're just going through a humanly hardest possible, one of the hardest possible experiences. So get help. There is no shame in that, right? It's sometimes hard to fix that alone.
That's right. Thank you for that. I
Mhm.
love what you said. Shame cannot survive if you share it. I wrote
Mhm.
that down. That's it, because it is a very lonely place to be. Thank you so much for that. So, if someone wants to reach out and contact you, maybe they have an organization or a team that they're like, "Gosh, we could benefit from learning how to trust one another and change our culture." How can they reach you?
I'm available on LinkedIn. If they send me a message through LinkedIn,
Okay.
I would return their message right back. Currently, we're rebuilding our website, so I want to make sure that we receive all the communication through LinkedIn.
And speak that out loud in case someone's listening. What is your LinkedIn address? Is it Yasmin Gokalp, or is I think it's Performance Solutions?
Performance, and now I don't remember it by heart, but maybe we can place the link under this video.
In the show notes for sure. Your website and your LinkedIn contact will
Perfect.
be in show notes where people can grab that and reach out to you if they have an opportunity to tap into your expertise. I highly recommend it. You're an excellent facilitator. I had the privilege of joining one of your college. She's a college professor too, guys. There's so much more, and I got to speak to one of her graduate level classes that she teaches at Grand Canyon University, I believe it is. And I was a guest speaker along with Tracy. So anyway, multi-talented woman here, but I do know how she facilitates, and it's amazing. So firsthand knowledge there. So again, thank you, Yasmin, for being here with me today and sharing with my audience. I greatly appreciate it. Trust and betrayal, again, such a hot topic with my people.
My
Now,
pleasure.
thank you so much. As this episode of Soul CPR comes to a close, remember that healing is not a linear journey. It is a process of profound transformation. If today's episode resonated with you, then please share it with others who may need a lifeline of their own. We greatly appreciate it. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more hearts. You can always connect with me on social media. And if you can't find Yasmin, I'll help you connect with her as well. I'm on Facebook at Skyview Coaching, and I'm on all the other platforms at Ann Papayotti. Let me know your thoughts as well, your stories, and the topics that you'd like to explore more in future episodes. This show is for you, and we're going to make that happen. On screen, you can see my QR code, and you can scan that, or you can find me at skyviewcoaching.com. Thank you for listening. Until next time, may you find strength in your vulnerability and courage in your journey. Breathe deeply, love openly, and live soulfully. Good day.
This has been Soul CPR with host Ann Papayotti. Breathe life back into your spirit with each episode, where she and special guests explore the relationships that hurt us and discover that healing can only begin with you. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.